Hey everybody, it's Eccentric. Welcome to the Artist Slam Poetry. I am the founder and organizer of the Exit 36 Slam Poetry Festival. Every year in December, the city of Pompano Beach presents this amazing festival, welcoming 15 poets from across the country. Tonight, you will have the honor of hearing from 3 of them. If you don't know what slam is, welcome. And if you do know what slam is, we invite you to learn more about the poets that you love and more about the art form that you love. Thank you for joining us.
You know, ever since middle school, I heard people say, "Hey, John, your last name Kelly. Are you related to R. Kelly?" Well, seems like I'm ready to tell the world, yes, I bear the name of a monster. Yes, we share 5 letters and 2 syllables, but there's nothing else.
I want to say yes. Slam poetry is an art form. It takes skill. I mean, it's a form of art that you practice and get better at. I mean, hopefully. It is more than the writing. So when I first learned about poetry, it was recitals. So it was basically done in the library, and you were reading someone else's work from a book, you know, and you didn't typically put any great emotion or performance into it. It was a recital. You were just reading the poem. So when we talk about slam, slam is way, way more involved and in depth than just on stage reading a poem from a book. There is a performance aspect to it. There is evoking of emotions that comes with it. There is a lot that goes into slam. It's not just reading a poem. It is a lot more in depth than that.
I have been folding my tongue beneath itself, bleaching my language, clenching my jaw with shackled teeth, because the moment I open my mouth, uprising spring from my saliva, my dialogue is cruddy.
Spoken word is directly connected to those art forms rooted in African culture, right? The griot, the art of storytelling, the historians of traditional tribes that carried the heritage, the culture, and the history. Slam poetry is simply connecting a competitive aspect to spoken word poetry. And I think there is an art in that, right? Being able to fully embody your spoken word piece is art. Being able to live that poem on stage, being able to balance the way in which you say it, your cadence, your timing, your pace, your volume, being able to really bring those words to life on stage is absolutely an art form.
At 1:47 in the morning, when the neighborhood block party dies down, and I'm trying to shoot my shot with whomever I got in my left hand, while balancing whiskey and a blunt in my right, I spot one of my middle school students on the street.
Definitely. Yes, poetry, slam poetry is definitely an art form within itself. Underneath literature, you have poetry, and I think as soon as you put poetry with performing arts, that's slam poetry. It's different. Like, a lot of people are poets. You sit down and you write a poem, and technically you are a poet. You wrote that poem, right? So you're a poet. However, to be a slam poet is to do something else. It's to take your poem that's on that page and bring it to life for 3 minutes and 10 seconds. And it's an art form because it's more than just writing a poem. It's a lot of great writers who are not great slam poets. There are a lot of great slam poets who are not great writers, you know? And it's a way to finagle that. It's a way to play with that because people want the energy. They want to be entertained as well.
So my personal journey with slam. Um, I think I was slamming before I knew what slam poetry was. So let's take it back to 1988. Woo! Third grade. At this point, I had already started writing poetry in the second grade. And in third grade, I started exploring essay writing. So in school, they had essay contests, and they also had oratorical competitions. So officially, though, the first time I slammed was early 2000s. I mean, we're talking 2004, 2005, something like that. And by then, we knew what slam was. We knew what slam poetry was. We knew there was competitions. They were going out of town. They were competing in groups. We knew what slam was. And what do you do with that? You need to compete. You need other like skilled people around you to compete so that you can put a value or worth on the training that you have put in, right? And because some people are like, well, I write poetry for myself, and competing in a slam, it changes why I write. Not for me. Performing on that level with other people just as great as you are is a confidence booster for me. And it reminds me that or a little bit of bubble deflating when your ego gets a little bit too big and you think, oh wow, I'm the yeah, somebody is better than you. Somebody is always better than you.
So the way I got started with slam actually was when I was a bit younger. I started doing spoken word poetry in middle school, right? And it was really like, poems about bullying and poems about, exploring my identity at that age. And then it definitely grew. I was a part of the youth poetry scene in Baltimore. So there were poets like Olu Butterfly and actually Slangston Hughes, who is a teammate of mine. But at the time, Slangston was a part of introducing me into the youth poetry scene in Baltimore City. So I did a few slams at festivals or at school or at community events, and I definitely found a love for slam poetry, but I didn't really enter the more regional or national scene until 2015, where the Baltimore slam team was reestablished by Slangston Hughes, and we decided to go to our first national slam out in California, out in Oakland. And we didn't do that bad, we definitely made it. We didn't get it past semis, but we didn't do that bad. We were really excited to just be in this space with so many other amazing poets from around the country. But then we went back to the lab. We got us a coach. We were coached by none other than Lamar Anthony Hill, and he whipped us into shape. And that following year, we actually won the National Poetry Slam in Atlanta, and we went on to win Southern Fried, Rust Bout. I was able to be third in the world at the Woman of the World Poetry Slam in 2020. So that was really my journey to slam. It's definitely based in the family aspect of it all. I don't think I would be a part of the slam community as deeply as I am if I didn't have a team that I could trust, a team that I love, a team that I have grown with. I think the fellas that have been on the team with me for years now are definitely, my kin at this point, and the tribe that we have created as Baltimore Slam Team is something that I cherish deeply.
So like I had mentioned before, I got into slam in 2009. Let me straighten those numbers up. 2009 is when I went to Montclair State University, and I met a man by the name of Tyleek Radley, who ended up being my big brother and frat brother, and he ended up being one of the founders of a performing arts fraternity, one of the only, if not the only, performing arts fraternity in New Jersey. Anyway, met him in 2009 and told him I was a poet, and he's like, okay, I write too. You should come with me. Speaking Through Silence is a group on campus. It's a poetry group, and they have weekly meetings come. So I went. I liked the things that they were doing, and they asked people to share their poems. So I shared a poem that I had wrote back when I was in the 9th grade. And they was like, yo, that's slam poem. That's slam poem. So I'm like, what the hell was slam? You know? And they was like, it's competition. So by 2013, I had written all new pieces for this slam, and I had been invited to the Grand Slam in Montclair State. I ended up winning the Grand Slam against two awesome poets. One was named Timothy Dwight, one was named Chris Rodriguez, and there was another one by the name of Shalita McCann. I went so hard and so headstrong into slam for years. 2013 is not only when I was on the Montclair State Slam team, this is when I joined my home slam team, New Jerusalem. And I was blessed enough to meet my coach, Chris Fomentals Cook, who is just a genius, just a genius. And I was going so hard with the slam poetry for like 5 years. And after a while, people was like, yo, you should start featuring. And one thing that I realized that slam poetry itself kept me sharp. It kept me on my toes. Once I was able to perfect my slam poetry, I was able to perfect my performances. But getting up in front of a crowd and performing, capturing your attention and keeping it. Not only that, but keeping me sharp. The emotions and the thought that I put behind a particular word or a particular line in a poem. Slam poetry definitely nurtures that. Slam poetry, and I've learned from the best, from people who's been doing it for years, and they'll let you know. Some of the best will let you know the reason that they still slam is because it keeps them on their toes. It keeps you strong. It keeps you hungry. You think you the best, you know, you think you're going the hardest, you think that you're the one that's giving all this emotion and all this on stage, and you go and you see a high school student who encapsulates that and mastered that keeps a passion burning in you. It lets you know that what you love is, it's always going to be someone out there who loves it just like you do.
Why Exit 36? Exit 36 Poetry Slam is family. I can't explain it, but there is an anxiety that comes with slam poetry. I mean, typically, I don't even sit down during a slam. Like, those whole couple of hours while we're in there battling, I can't sit down. It's got too much going on. But there was a different feeling with this community and with Exit 36. I look forward to competing against these people because they my friends and my family, and when you can compete without the jitters, without all of that anxiety, you have more fun. This poetry fest, people come from all over, you know. So you are getting more seasoned veteran competition in something like this, because you have poets coming from Hawaii, Los Angeles, New York, Jersey, all over, you know, Baltimore, Texas. It's like, wow, where could you ever see all these people in one place, you know? So that for me, that type of there's no rivalry. You know, it's all fun. None of us are like hating on nobody. We love each other, you know? I want to see, I mean, yeah, I want to win and I want to win some money, but I want to see any one of my friends and family win, because that's the kind of competition this is. That's the kind of festival this is. It's about family. It's about friends and building on those bonds, those long-lasting bonds. If you don't get yourself a couple people in your friend circle that you can call your bestie, your BFF, or your ride or die, or kindred, or whatever you want to call them, you need one or two of them in your circle. And through this festival, I have definitely found me one or two of them people.
Honestly, Eccentric is the truth. Eccentric put together such an amazing, amazing poetry slam. I had to be a part of it. I think that oftentimes we find ourselves in slam poetry communities that sometimes feel kind of stale. Sometimes they don't feel as welcoming. Sometimes, you know, you have those people who go every year and there's a certain expectation about how things go. And so when you're the new person at the slam, it doesn't feel like you have a space to carve out for yourself and make it your own. But That just was not the case with Exit 36. It always felt like a family affair. It always felt very open, very warm. Pompano is an amazing place to go and have a little mini vacation while you are, participating in Exit 36. So it really is just a dope experience. I love, we have the kickbacks, we're playing spades, we're kicking it with other poets. It's also a very small, close-knit kind of slam. It just is a really cool experience, and I really appreciate it. Another thing that I'll say is oftentimes you spend a lot of money getting to slams, right? You got to pay for your airfare, you got to pay for your lodging, you got to pay for your food, right? And you got to put in all that time writing new poems, memorizing new materials, and the payout is often very small. And if you don't have a sponsorship, right, that's a lot of money invested and you don't get a lot of money in return. But Exit 36 has amazing prizes, right? They have amazing prizes. So the incentive to go and participate in Exit 36 is really high. And again, it's just an amazing experience. And so I'm thankful to Pompano Beach and to Eccentric for putting on such a stellar competition. And there are so many people who appreciate that experience. And I'm definitely a consistent Exit 36 goer, and I'm going to keep going as often as I am able.
I would not come to Exit 36 Slam. I would have not come to Exit 36 Slam at all if it was not for Eccentric. Seeing Eccentric perform for the first time, I immediately gained a certain respect for her, how she delivers. It's from her soul.
It will call it loss. My family calls it devastation. My husband calls it failure. My preacher, he calls it the will of God. I'm not sure which category I fit into, so hush.
And she's like, yo, I'm doing the competition back at, back at home. Where the hell are you performing at, Not only that, but her spirit just feels like home. It's very nurturing. It's very welcoming. It's something that I am very used to. The first one I went to was in 2018. 2018, Exit 36 Slam. It was great. The energy was amazing. And when I say from start to finish, I do mean from start to finish. Not a high energy like it was party crazy, a home energy that you felt good here, that you could scream here, that you can cry here, that you could laugh here, you could be silly, you could be excited, you could be vulnerable, or you could be in your shell, you could be in who you are. You can be. Went out there, did the best I can do in a room full of people from Pompano who didn't know a damn thing about me, and they felt it,
Don't ask me why I don't like men if you hear me say I love women. Men fathom that I hate them simply because I don't date them, and God knows how wrong they are. I've loved men.
They felt that. They felt that right here, and that meant the world to me. And it wasn't because they just felt me. They were feeling every poet who went out there to say something about home, to say something about heart right here. I didn't win that night. I didn't need to win. I won knowing that I was in a room full of people who was able to hear my story and relate to it, yo. You ain't gotta be from Pompano. They can just see that they can see that it's real. Speak about your home and what you love. They see that, yo. They see it. It's so dope. It's so beautiful. And I will always keep coming back for that authentic energy that I can only get at home. And that makes it feel like home, And for Eccentric, for capturing that and growing it.
How does poetry change a community? I think that for me, when I'm thinking about poetry in community, it is absolutely a powerful tool that can lead to a very transformed community. Take, for example, Baltimore City. We have organizations like Do More Baltimore, which exist at the intersection of art and activism. It exists at the intersection of community engagement, right, and art. And I have seen, right, Do More Baltimore teach young people through a pipeline from participant to teaching artists how to get involved and become a part of the creative economy in their city. I have seen Do More Baltimore just grow young people into vibrant adults. And I think that is extremely necessary when we talk about the creative workforce. I would also say for myself, as I'm now the founder and executive director of the Black Arts District, there is a clear and direct intersection between art and community. The Black Arts District is the only arts and entertainment district in the state of Maryland that is uniquely designed to support, celebrate, and uplift African American creatives, right, in our state. And it is beautiful that it exists. And it is amazing that we were able to mobilize and make that happen. But the goal of the Arts District is about revitalizing West Baltimore, which is, a 90% African American part of Baltimore City. It has been disenfranchised. It has been dilapidated and neglected. It definitely is full of communities that have suffered due to the long-standing history of racial discrimination and redlining in our city. And the goal is to use arts and culture and entertainment to bring about a new thrust of economic vitality, to bring about revitalization, to bring about new investment, new community development without gentrification, and using art and culture as a tool to do that.
I think I'm blessed to be able to use my gift to impact communities. My poetry has definitely changed communities over the years. So most of my work in the last 20 years have been in nonprofit. I spent about 10 of those years working as a health educator. Educating youth specifically on safer sex, sexual reproductive health, healthy choices, HIV, STDs, all that stuff, right? Somebody said, "Hey, John, you write poetry. Can you write us something for this event? We would really love some words and blah, blah, blah." And then I wrote a poem and I didn't like it. So I scrapped it. And I went back to why. I went back to the why. Why am I doing this? And I had to be vulnerable. So I rewrote the poem and I talked about my uncle, Jeffrey, who died of AIDS-related condition. And almost cried. I almost cried in that performance, you know what I mean? And that's when I knew. That's when I knew. Because when after I, wiped my couple of tears, and then I saw people's reaction and how they were touched, I knew that, wow, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with this gift. Slamming is cool. Performing, at a wedding or whatever, that's cool. But when we're talking about impacting a community and making positive changes, that surpasses everything. That surpasses it all. We use our poetry in so many ways. We go into the prisons. We go into the schools. We're in the trenches. We are with the people in the community. So they know that this is not an act. We are not pretending. This is not simulation. We are out there doing this work.
Poetry does more than affect the community. Poetry affects the world. Poetry affects the world. There is not one person in the world who does not like poetry. I don't believe that. Just like I don't believe there's one person in the world who doesn't like music. I don't believe that. I believe that people who say they don't like poetry and they don't like music is because they haven't found the melody for them. What have I done so far? I've put on the map that this is the town that is from here. I stepped outside of East Orange and I stepped outside of New Jersey to show people what New Jersey and what East Orange can do. And yes, it's times that I represent different teams. I've had the honor of representing Jersey City. I've had the honor of representing Newark. I've had the honor of representing Brooklyn. I've had the honor of representing New York City. So even when I'm in these rooms, even when I may have a different moniker on my back, I still let it be known that this is very much so East Orange, New Jersey blood speaking here. Not only that, I have no problem performing in my neighborhood for youth. There's so many people working with the youth here. And this is something that I didn't have when I was in high school, at East Orange Campus High School. I didn't know anything about youth slams. I didn't know anything about Brave New Voices. I didn't know anything about poetry whatsoever. I'm not going to allow that to continue. Anybody who knows me, anybody who allows me, because, I mean, you're not just going to let anybody walk into a school. But when I go back and I like to visit my school, I let them know anything that y'all are doing here, I would love to be a part of that. So as far as how poetry can impact the community, it changes the community. It does. It lets people know that story that you think is just yours, that nobody can relate to, that part of you that you think nobody cares about. So many people want to hear that. They're waiting for you to say it. And they right here at home. They're not even far. And when you know that you have somebody that you can relate to in a close area, you feel safer in the soul. That's for a reason. That's not something to be ignored or belittled. Your soul don't feel comfortable everywhere. And to find something they can relate to at home is rare.